The High Court in Massachusetts has ruled that black men might actually have a legitimate reason to run away from the authorities. Now, this is an important thing to address, especially considering the fact that when it comes to cases involving police shooting unarmed individuals, a lot of times the counter argument against the police's behavior is, well, the individual ran away, which even if they did, there's no reason to shoot the person because they don't pose an imminent threat. But now the court has addressed why a person might have a legitimate reason to do so. So let's get into it. Now, it has to do with a specific case involving a man by the name of Jimmy Warren. Jimmy Warren was convicted of having an unlicensed gun, but the way it all went down was police were investigating a break-in, and they had a description of who the suspect was, and the description was ridiculous. He was wearing dark clothing.
And he was black.
And he was black, of course.
There was a couple of them, and one of them was actually wearing a red hoodie. That is not ridiculous. That actually, okay, that's slightly different, right?
Right.
But instead they pulled over or wanted to question two guys who were black and wearing just generally dark clothing.
Right.
That doesn't really match the description. Nobody's wearing a red hoodie, etc. Good enough. So that's how the case starts.
So that's how the case starts. Now, when the judges made this ruling, they cited important data, okay? So citing Boston police data and a 2014 report by the ACLU of Massachusetts that found blacks were disproportionately stopped by the city's police, the state's highest court on Tuesday threw out the gun conviction of Jimmy Warren. So how did he get that conviction? On December 18th of 2011, officers investigating a break-in approached Jimmy Warren. Warren ran away. At that point, the cops thought he was super suspicious, so the cops investigated him, and they recovered an unlicensed .22 caliber gun in a nearby yard. It wasn't even on his person. It was in a nearby yard. Warren was then charged and convicted with possession of an unlawful weapon, okay? Now, the justices said police didn't have the right to stop Warren in the first place, and the fact that he ran away shouldn't be used against him. Now, why should they not have stopped him in the first place? Well, they argue the description of the suspect was not specific enough. Saying that it was a black person wearing dark clothing is way too vague, right? So you need to have probable cause to stop someone. Just because you're a cop doesn't mean you get to stop whoever the hell you want, right? So let me give you the actual wording from their ruling. Lacking any information about facial features, hairstyle, skin tone, height, weight, or other physical characteristics, the victim's description contributed nothing to the officer's ability to distinguish the defendant from any other black male wearing dark clothes and a hoodie in Roxbury.
So look, this decision is actually a little bit more liberal than I would have gone, which is interesting. Because I get it, guys. If somebody's running away from the cops, it's a natural human instinct to think,
why are you running away?
Why are you running from me? There must be something up. The cops are going to chase that guy. I'm not that put off by that. Now, at the same time, understand that what the courts are referring to are two things. One, you've put African Americans in an unwinnable situation here. Remember in Ferguson, when Michael Brown, they said was, in the beginning, he was running away too. And I think I analyzed that in great detail, and I believe that he actually was shot first while running away, and then he turned around since he was shot, and then he started coming towards the cop, and then the cop shot him again and killed him. Okay, now, so some people think, no, he was only shot while running towards the cop. But I tell you that because, so if you're coming towards the cop, you should be shot. If you're running away from the cop, you should be pursued. And sometimes people will just stand right there, and then
they get shot anyway.
They'll get shot anyway,
Yeah.
right? So that's the court's talking about, hey, you took these general things, the black guy wearing dark clothes. You could do that in almost any neighborhood. You say a white guy wearing light clothes or dark clothes or whatever. They could pull over almost anybody, but they don't. And they showed statistics saying that, no, even when you account for a crime, you account for socioeconomic conditions, etc., African Americans get pulled over by the cops and questioned more often in Massachusetts than white people do, disproportionately. So stop it, because that is terribly unfair.
It is. And so let's get into that component of this ruling, because they address that as well. Okay, so the big part of this ruling is the fact that someone running away does not justify a cop pursuing that individual. And here's what the wording of the ruling indicates. The finding that black males in Boston are disproportionately and repeatedly targeted for field interrogation and observation encounters suggests a reason for flight totally unrelated to consciousness of guilt. Such an individual, when approached by the police, might just as easily be motivated by the desire to avoid the recurring indignity of being racially profiled. So again, they cited actual evidence from the police department and the ACLU to make their case. The ACLU's report found that between 2007 and 2010, 63% of Boston police encounters were with blacks, though at that time the city's black population was just 24%. And in this study, of course, they controlled for the factor of, violent or unsafe neighborhoods, gang activity, and all that stuff. So if you're going to try to make the argument that, oh, well, blacks are just more violent, no. They accounted for that, and they still found that there was this disproportionate, targeting by police officials.
So, look, on the running away thing, I think that it's fair for the cops to take that into account. I don't find that as no reason to pursue. But I think it's also fair to say that that is not dispositive. Just because someone's running away from you doesn't mean they're guilty. It also doesn't mean they're innocent. That doesn't affect me at all. It would affect me, but at the same time, when I caught up to the guy, that doesn't mean, that's it, I knew it, you ran away from me, you're guilty, and I'm done with it.
Yeah.
Right? So I think the answer is somewhere in between there. By the way, could this guy have run away and then ditched his gun while he was running? Sure. And he might have had nothing to do with the original crime because it doesn't look like he really matched the description. But when the cops constantly stop you, and if you had a gun on him, well, he's going to run, right?
Yeah, and look, let me be absolutely clear about something. And it's something that average Americans don't understand because they don't understand our law or our Constitution. Just because someone is a cop doesn't mean that they get to come to you when you're doing absolutely nothing wrong and start questioning you and harassing you. Doesn't matter if you're black, doesn't matter if you're white, doesn't matter if you're UFO. I don't give a shit what your race is, right?
Or search you.
Or search you. There has to be probable cause, okay? So whenever an unarmed individual gets shot and killed and they're no longer around to even defend themselves and people start running their mouths about, oh, well, it's a cop, so why didn't that person just comply? No. A person doesn't need to comply with anyone or anything unless there is probable cause, which is why when a cop pulls you over, the first thing they say is, do you know why I stopped you? And then they tell you why. There needs to be a reason. They don't get to just run around and harass people for the hell of it because they have a badge.
Well, Anna, if they did that to patriots, you know what they'd say. I got my rights, don't tread on me, okay? But if they do it to people that don't look like those patriots, then they think, well, you should have complied. Always comply with the government. Bow your head. Let them tread on you. So, and then finally, is there a thing such as reasonable flight? So the judges in this case are saying, maybe they're running from you because you're constantly harassing them. Maybe their actions are reasonable. So I get that. I tend to think that the answer is a little bit in the middle. If all you did was go and harangue people in any neighborhood of any race, you know what you would do? You would find stuff on them. If you go into any neighborhood in America, you know what you're going to find? Pot.
Oh, absolutely.
Okay.
You go into my apartment, you're going to find pot.
Okay, so wherever you go, you're going to find pot. So if they were constantly doing stop and frisk and searching you when they had no right to, you know what you would do if you had pot in your pocket? You'd run. Now, you didn't do the robbery. You didn't do the original thing that they were looking for. And then people will turn around and go, you shouldn't have run. You should have complied. It's your fault. It's your fault. But why are you targeting me and me only? Not only, but disproportionately.
By the way,
why are you constantly up in our business trying to find something wrong with us and imprison us?
And by the way, no cop has any right to shoot someone because they don't comply. The only time they have a right to shoot someone, and I know that this is very, very difficult for people to understand because cops have been getting away with not following this rule. The only time they're supposed to shoot someone is if they pose an imminent threat, if they threaten the person's life imminently. And in a lot of cases, that's not what's happening. They will shoot someone as they are running away from them. They will shoot someone as they are playing with a toy gun in a park within 2 seconds of arriving on the scene. That is not an imminent threat, okay? So people need to understand what the laws are. These are not my opinions. Okay, these are not opinions at all. This is based on the law and what's supposed to happen. But for some reason, people make up their own laws in their heads and they excuse this kind of behavior.
And, you know, I say it all on the show all the time. The biggest crime in America is disrespecting a police officer. But it's actually not on the law books anywhere. There is no law that you have to be super respectful to the cops. And by the way, you know who knows that? The Second Amendment guys, the so-called, you know, right-wing patriots who say, I don't have to do anything for you. I can carry this gun anywhere I want. And I can, you know, brandish it if I want. It's an open carry state. Don't tread on me, right? But when it comes to other people, hey, respect the cops. Otherwise, you had it coming. You run, you had it coming. Sometimes they get to shoot you. In this case, you know, they get to pursue you until they find out something you did wrong or maybe did wrong because they found a gun in another yard. And then they're going to put it all on you. And hey, you should have just let him tread on you. Young Turks membership is awesome.
Says who?
Me.
Please believe me.
Look, you guys make this show happen. We couldn't do it without you. tytnetwork.com/join.